everyone! Thank you for watching this video. This is a video I have been getting a lot of questions about and as to whether or not I will do it. And guess what? I'm finally doing it. This year has been the first year that I am raising monarch and swallowtail butterflies. And I just never thought I could do it. I never thought I had time. I thought that I wasn't skilled enough. I thought that you had to be some sort of expert. That none of those things are true. Anyone can raise monarch butterflies. They are super, super, super easy. In this video, I am going to answer some of the top questions that I get about raising butterflies. Number one, why do you raise butterflies? The reason I raise them is because they have a much better survival rate when you raise them in an enclosed area. Whereas if they're caterpillars out in the wild or even in a garden setting, they show that only about 10% make it to be a butterfly. Another reason, I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on in this world, and this is a small way that I can give back. Each one that flies away, I feel like I've made a difference. Question number two, what do you raise them in? I raise them in a butterfly tent. That is a pop-up tent, a clear side so people can see into it. It has a zipper on the side that you can unzip, which is easy access to get in and out of the tent. I also read an article that said that caterpillars are escape artists. Granted, I've only used the tent really to raise them in, but I certainly have not found that to be true. I mean, they stay wherever there's food, and as long as there's food, they're not going anywhere. They are voracious eaters. All they want to do is eat all the time. So I don't know where these caterpillars are escaping to or how they're escaping, but that is a reason that has been given as to why to use the pop-up tent. Question number three, where do you keep your tent? I have 4 really obnoxious, curious, in-your-face cats, which they think that everything is theirs and that they can play with it. So I keep my tents outside on my back porch, which is under a tree, and it also has an awning, so it's very protected. It may get some spotty sun a little bit, but not that much. It gets some weather. It will rain, which is fine. Your caterpillars get rained on in the wild. They can get rained on in your tent. Just make sure they're not soaking or on the bottom where they can get soaked. If you have animals that are not going to be bothering the tent, by all means, keep them inside. If you have AC, most likely you do not want to keep them inside. Number 4, how do you find the caterpillars? I don't necessarily always get the caterpillars. Sometimes I find eggs, and both caterpillars and eggs are on the underside of a milkweed leaf. So I will lie down and look up, and I will just kind of stare in one spot or all over the place until I see one, and then instead of taking that whole leaf, I usually just try to tear off a little bit of the leaf because I want to leave as much of the plant there for butterflies to come and lay their eggs on. And then I take the egg and I keep it in a small Tupperware container, like the kind that you get at the grocery store. And I leave the eggs, and the first instar, which is the first stage of caterpillar, sometimes up to the second instar in the Tupperware container before I move them into the big tent. The caterpillars can bite each other. They can get a little competitive when it comes to food, like some people. You want to keep your different sizes separate, or at least your really, really little ones away from your larger ones. Another way you can look for caterpillars if you do not want to lie on the ground is to look at the leaves and look to see if they've been eaten, and then very carefully flip over the leaf and see if you see a caterpillar. Or if you're looking for eggs, just the same thing, just keep on flipping over the leaf until you find one. I have heard of people ordering caterpillars, and personally, again, this is my first year doing it, and I'm a beginner in this as much as you are. To me, I'm not sure I agree with that. Question number 5. What do you feed your caterpillars? I feed mine generally swamp milkweed or common milkweed. I usually get my milkweed in my own yard. I know in my yard that I don't use any pesticides. Everything I have here is organic. and that there is nothing that they will eat that can harm them. And that's actually a very big issue if you don't know where your milkweed supply, if you get your milkweed supply and you don't know what's been happening around it, caterpillars can eat poisoned milkweed, and then they just start vomiting green awful things and they die. It depends how many caterpillars I have. If I only have a few, and by a few I mean like 3 or 4, then I let them be on the bottom of the cage and I lay out the leaves on the bottom and then they can eat them that way. If I have more than that, then I cut milkweed and put it in a vase full of water. I change out the water every day, and you have to make sure you put it immediately in water after you cut it. It starts to wilt pretty quickly. If it's not bleeding any sort of milk, then it's not doing the caterpillars any good. If it's dried up, they're not going to eat it, they're going to starve. So make sure you feed them every single day and give them fresh leaves. If you have them in a vase, they last at least 4 or 5 days, which makes it a lot easier when you're feeding large quantities of caterpillars. I have also heard and seen people taking a pot of milkweed and growing their own, or buying it at a nursery and putting it in the tent and doing it that way, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing you need to make sure is that it's from an organic place, because again, I have obnoxious felines, because you don't want to be feeding your caterpillars any poisoned milkweed. Question number 6. How do you know when they are ready to emerge? The chrysalis stays this really pretty celadon green color throughout the entire time that is in there until right before it is ready to emerge. And then it turns clear and you can see the butterfly in it. And it's all squished, but you can see the orange and the black, and that means that emergence, or eclosing, if we're going to use correct terms, is imminent. And you should keep an eye on it to see when it will come out of its chrysalis. Number 7. How do you know when to release them? It is really critical that all butterflies dry upside down, and that allows them to pump fluid into their wings and gets them dry and helps them unfurl because they've been squished inside this little tiny little bean. I'm not really sure how long that takes because I don't sit there and watch them, at least not directly. I have my tents right outside my office door so I can see them over there. But you don't want to release them too early because their wings could not be formed and they could get hurt, and during this time they're extremely vulnerable to predators. I let them stay in the cage until they're fluttering about, and then I will open the door and let them fly out. Another thing that I'll do is once they're mostly unfurled, like not when they're still crinkly, but when they look more or less normal, I take them to a plant and I hang them upside down on the plant. They can dry and then leave on their own time, and I do that a lot more often when I have a busy schedule and I need to leave and I don't want them sitting in the cage without any food. Can you touch them? I touch the caterpillars. Sometimes if I don't have them on the milkweed in the jar, then I have to kind of pick them up and move them. You just have to be really careful, like you don't want to pinch too hard or anything. They usually just kind of curl up, and you can put them wherever you need to put them. The butterflies I try not to touch. When I put them to hang, I let them crawl onto my finger. So if you just put your finger in front of the caterpillar and very slowly push toward it, then they should just climb on it, and then you can just take your finger and hang them somewhere and they should pretty easily go upside down on whatever you're hanging them on. And the question that I get asked the most, how do you know when they're male or female? And it's super, super easy. With the monarch butterflies, the females have thicker lines and the males have thinner lines and spots on their bottom wings. As of now, I'm still right in the middle of the butterfly releasing game, so I do not have a final tally of how many butterflies I've released, but I will update and let you know. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to comment and ask me any more questions in the comments below, and I will for sure answer them. Share this video. As many people we can get to raise monarch butterflies, then the more butterflies are hopefully going to have a chance in this world. So please share this video. Please start raising monarch butterflies, and good luck.